73 recommendations have been put forward by the Constitutional Commission, mandated to brainstorm progressive amendments to the 40-year-old Constitution in consultation with the public. Commission Chairman Sean McQueenie, QC, delivered a summary of the report today, just after presenting a copy to the Prime Minister.
Now, during the presentation, Mr. McQueenie announced that the Commission has recommended that the preamble to the Constitution remain unchanged. However, the report does recommend changes to the processes which have governed contentious issues like citizenship and election queries.
Jimenita Swain has more on the report, which also addresses term limits for the Prime Minister and what constitutional powers may be taken away from the Attorney General.
A 9-month gestation period, the Constitutional Commission finally presenting its 250-page document to the Prime Minister and the nation earlier today. That document outlines 73 recommendations, with fewer than 30 needing constitutional change.
It is the very firm recommendation of the Commission that all of the provisions relating to the acquisition of citizenship and the transmission of citizenship to children or spouses should be cast in gender-neutral language to provide for the equal distribution of the right of citizenship and to remove any discrimination against women in this and indeed every other regard. That the one area of discrimination against men in relation to citizenship also needs to be remediated by constitutional reform. We take the view that the father, a Bahamian father, of an illegitimate child, provided he can establish paternity, should be able to transmit citizenship to his child.
Speaking to the system of government, the report rejects the establishment of term limits for the Prime Minister and members of Parliament. It recommends an increase in the complement of senators and the restriction on the size of the cabinet to 15 members. The Commission also calls for the establishment of a number of commissions.
I believe that democracy would be immeasurably strengthened if we were to have a truly constitutionally independent electoral and boundaries commission to replace the current constituencies commission. And we very firmly believe that the politicians and the judges should not be a part of this commission. It has to be a truly independent commission. And we believe that the parliamentary commissioner should be merged into this body. And we are proposing that there should be formed an integrity commission. This doesn't necessarily have to be done under the Constitution, but there should be an integrity commission that would supervise and investigate the conduct of members of Parliament as well as senior public officials.
Whether or not to retain the Privy Council and carry out the death penalty was perhaps one of the chief concerns of residents. Here's how the Commission decided on that. The
Commission does not recommend the abolition of appeals to the Privy Council. We think that the Privy Council should continue to be the ultimate court of appeal. The Commission supports the retention of capital punishment as the ultimate penalty under our law. I am obliged to say, however, as the Commission's report makes clear, that we did have a number of dissenting views.
If the Commission has its way, the Attorney General may lose some powers of the office, and general elections will come with more advanced notice.
Firmly of the view that the time has come for the Attorney General's powers of, all of the Attorney General's powers of prosecution, without exception, to be transferred to an independent, entrenched Director of Public Prosecutions. Be at least a 9-month period of notice before a general election is called, but leaving intact the provisions which would enable that to be accelerated. For example, if the Prime Minister loses a no-confidence motion, if there's some other fundamental event that results in the failure of the government, you should be able to accelerate the calling of elections in those cases.
The Commission has also identified as priority issues the creation of an autonomous Director of Public Prosecutions and an independent Boundaries Commission, along with the issues related to gender equality.
Amendment of the citizenship provisions to provide for gender neutrality, or gender equality if you like, and to establish full equality between men and women. The addition of sex as a prohibited ground of discrimination also needs to be added to Article 26.
Even though the Constitutional Commission has suggested 4 priority areas, the government will now have to decide which of those recommendations go to referendum. Reporting for ZNS Network News, I'm Jimenita Swain.
Well, Prime Minister Perry Christie weighed in on what will follow now that the Commission has released its report.
We're going to read your report very carefully with a view to recognizing that the government of the Bahamas must take a position, must take it to the legislature for its support, and then, of course, ultimately, the decision is made as to the people.
Now, the Prime Minister also talked about the role the opposition plays in the referendum process.
The government and the opposition is receiving the report together, same time. And so it's going to be incumbent upon us to determine the extent to which we are able to agree in moving forward on the recommendations of this report. To agree on what goes into the questions, the making of the questions in the referendum that would take place.